Tonight, we're continuing our exclusive series up close with Patsy Smullin as today's show co-host Hoda Kotb prepares to retire at the end of the week. In part two, NBC5, NBC2 owner Patsy Smullin discovered how Kotb learned a very important trick of the trade.
Can you share with us, and maybe it's impossible, but the highlights of your career?
I worked in New Orleans as an anchor there, and that was one of my favorite jobs I've ever had in my life. I fell in love with the city. I didn't know it was possible. It was like living and breathing with a heartbeat and a soul. And I loved New Orleans like it was home. It was the only city I ever really felt at home in, like I fit. And then the only job I would leave for would have been one at the network. And it turned out that Dateline was hiring. And they hired me. And it was one of the scariest, I thought, moves I'd ever made, because I knew I was leaving security to become kind of a cog in a wheel. And, but I did it. And I ended up, everybody was better than me at Dateline. They were all better writers and better interviewers. And I was kind of in over my head, but I just kept trying. Like, I kept asking people for help, and I'm trying to get better at this. I'm trying to get better at that. And the only thing I had going for me, Patsy, was I thought my voice was okay. And I still remember my boss goes, "Hey, Hoda, can you come in my office?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, we need to talk about your voice." I'm like, "That's not good either. Like, nothing's good." And he said, he goes, "I want you to read this phrase." Okay. And he wrote it down. "And then something amazing happened." I go, "And then something amazing happened." He goes, "No, punch it." I go, "And then something amazing happened." He goes, I didn't say yell. I said, "Punch it." I said, "Neil, I don't know what you're talking about." I said, "I'm trying." He goes, "All your stories sound the same." He goes, "Listen to me." "And then something amazing happened." I go, "Oh my gosh." So he goes, "That's how you have to think about things." I walked out of his office, Patsy, and I heard Keith Morrison tracking in the audio booth. And it was like poetry. When he came out of there, I said, "Can I ask you a question?" I said, "What are you doing in there?" He said, "You know what I'm doing in there? I'm reading a children's story to my kids." And I thought about it. And then something amazing happened. Like, it was like the world became clear. And, I got to travel the world for Dateline. I went to Iraq and Afghanistan and all over the place. I covered the tsunami in Southeast Asia and all that stuff. The war in Iraq, and came back, and then a job came open, and Kathy Lee and I ended up on a little dance that lasted for 11 years. So, sometimes you hit the jackpot, and I sure did.
Tomorrow night, our series with Hoda wraps up with some sage advice for rookie reporters that could very well save their careers. And Up Close with Patsy Smullin tomorrow night right here on NBC5 News at 6.